So let's just go around quick and introduce ourselves to all of our guests. Why don't you guys start?
Hi, I'm Angela.
Hi, Angela.
I'm Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
I'm Mary.
Hi, Mary.
I'm Susan.
Hi, Susan.
I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Sarah.
I'm Sarah also.
Hi, Sarah also.
I'm Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
I'm Cody.
Hi, Cody. Hi, Austin.
I'm Gabe.
Hi, Gabe. Hi, Jeremy.
I'm Elijah.
Hi, Elijah. Hi, Matilda.
I'm Gilette.
Hi,
Hi,
Glenn.
Gillian.
I'm Janet.
Hi, Janet.
I'm Alana.
Hi, Alana.
I'm Adriana.
Hi, Adriana.
I'm Zach.
Hi, Zach.
I'm Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
I'm Rob.
Hi, Rob.
And I'm Miriam. Who's from Santa Cruz and who's from Illinois? You're Santa Cruz people. Great. Yeah, we're part of a network, Bay Area Food Bank Network, and we occasionally we get to meet the Santa Cruz Food Bank people when they come up north for a meeting. So it's nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Wow, there are so many names here. I don't know if I can remember. I know
Don't
there's
worry
two
about it.
Sarahs over here. There's a Gabe somewhere. There's an Elijah.
Yes.
Matilda, I can't forget. That's an awesome name. Ariana, Zach.
That's good.
Well, basically, I don't have the teacher's palm. If you read palms, there's usually a line that tells you if you like to get up in front of people, if you like to teach, if you're theatrical. I'm actually the person that's usually behind the curtain at the food bank. I work on our website, our newsletter, annual reports, press releases. And I also actually, I sub for people. I will go out into the field, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, to do distributions as well. I probably would like to start by just sharing a personal story. I don't know how many of you actually have contact with clients who you're actually cooking for.
We have
Do you-
clients come in and talk to the kids.
and talk to the kids. So you've actually heard personal stories from people. I started at the food bank. I have a master's in nonprofit management from Sonoma State. I went back to night school, and I was fortunate enough to get a position at the food bank doing food drives, and then had an opportunity to move to another country and teach English. At that time, my mother was diagnosed with, well, by the time I got back, she had stage 3 leukemia. She lived here in Sebastopol. She lived right up the road at Burbank, and I had to come back and basically take care of her for the final, I'm sorry if I get a little emotional, but one of the reasons I really wanted to come out today and speak to you all is because you really had an incredible impact.
She was a client.
She was a client, and if I start to cry, I apologize. But
we're so happy that we were able to serve her.
yeah, so basically my mother was a low-income senior, so to put a face on hunger in Sonoma County in California, she worked really hard to retire with a minimal amount of benefits, and when it came time for me to come back and take care of her, I basically couldn't work. So I had no income, and we had her low-income senior income, which was enough to cover her rent, car payment, a little bit of food, a little bit of bills, but not everything. And so I was able to actually thankfully eat the food that your volunteers brought to feed her. She ate as long as she could before she lost her appetite, and I was there for her at the end. And thankfully, because of the food that we received from Ceres, I was able to be there 100% for her. So thank you sincerely for the work that you're doing. It's phenomenal. It just makes a huge difference. It's a lifeline, and one of many lifelines here in Sonoma County, because we, the food bank, we're currently feeding 78,000 people every month, and we do that by partnering with 149 nonprofits who operate 223 programs throughout Sonoma County. So whenever there's an agency that touches hunger, the food bank is connected to that. We're basically a hub of a network that stretches everywhere. So think of all of your major nonprofits that work with hunger issues like Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, Goodwill Industries, you name it, basically we touch. And we also have our own programs. We have farm fresh pantries. We have programs that extend all the way to Cloverdale, actually as far north as Del Norte County. One thing, when I started back at the food bank, I was lucky enough to get hired after my mom passed away. I did a programs distribution in Mendocino County. We go as far north there now. They don't have a food bank currently, at least not one that has enough food to feed the numbers that they have. So after my mom passed away, and this is just like a few examples of stories of people that we help to put a face on hunger. Because if I say 78,000 people every month, what does that mean to people? It's a big number. When I went up to Mendocino County, what I saw was what we typically see with seniors, low-income seniors. These are people that have worked hard their entire lives, and they're not hungry from a lack of trying. I mean, they're honestly like people that have maybe moved furniture their entire lives, so they're not getting a lot of large retirement. They're on fixed incomes. I think, for example, of this really sweet lady in Willits, a 94-year-old. She was a war bride. She came over after the war, and she's practically deaf. And every time we went to her, every month we'd go to her apartment complex. She couldn't hear us, so we would be yelling, "Just stay in your apartment." She'd come out with her walker, and we'd say, "Please just go back. We'll bring the box to you." And here's a lady that worked. Her husband owned a ranch, and they'd been ranchers in Willits her whole entire life, worked hard. And here she is in her golden years. And she's so thankful. She was so thankful. She is thankful. I saw her last month. I subbed for somebody. She literally will cry when you give her something like a cantaloupe. And that's not uncommon for seniors to get so worked up. It's not just about the food, and you've probably experienced it here. A lot of it, this heart connection that we have with people, the compassion, when people actually feel that someone else cares enough to feed them, it goes well, it's just well beyond the nutritional need. You know, in this society, it's almost as if the battle that we're fighting is not only to provide good nutrition for people, but it's also to share compassion and to spread that as well. So, you know, I definitely feel that's part of my job description. I think everybody that works at the food bank feels the same way. So with our senior programs, we currently have, with CSFP, which is a USDA, it's a US federal government program, we have 3,500 seniors that are touched by that one program alone every month. Our children's programs, we're currently feeding 34,000 through our own programs and through our partner agencies. Households, working households, and this is an area I think that Margaret really wanted to hear addressed too, and to talk about maybe as a further discussion topic. We have a lot of working poor in this county, and these are people that, you know, I think the living wage is supposed to be about $15 an hour. Well, we all know that a lot of people are not making $15 an hour. You know, the people that are providing childcare services, cleaning motel rooms, you name it, the kind of work that a lot of people don't want to do.
Vineyard workers.
Vineyard workers.
I don't think they make $50 an hour.
No. It's like $10 an hour. My brother did that.
So we have 34,000 children that we feed every month. So I think, for example, these vineyard workers, so that people that are working really hard, we have farm to families, which is a pantry program. We actually take fresh produce to 3 low-income schools in Santa Rosa, and I've had an opportunity to speak to the mothers at these schools. It tends to be mothers. Occasionally fathers will show up with their kids too. But they say the same story, especially when the economy gets bad. Not only are they hit by having low wages, but when the economy goes down, they may have one breadwinner. And if that person is not working, then they are, I would use the word desperate. And I know I've been told as much when I interview mothers that they're so thankful that they have this food to feed their children. You know, and that's not something that necessarily I want to hear when I interview people. I don't want them to have to feel that they're obligated to say thank you, because for me, it's just, I don't know, it's just part of being human is to share. And maybe in our society there's a kind of a line of demarcation between people who share and people who hoard. And if we're talking about, the hoarders versus the sharers as maybe, fundamentally a root cause of what we were talking about, which is hunger. We could talk about poverty. We can talk about accessibility to food, which are, these are significant issues too. I know in Mendocino County, in Ukiah, for example, if you're an elder and you can hardly walk, you have mobility issues, if we don't go up there and take a box to a senior apartment complex, their options are really limited. Public transportation is limited. Their mobility is limited. So that's one issue with accessibility is how far do people have to actually get food, to have access to it. We service a lot of...
Well, let me just jump in there. I like what you said about access, right? Access means how easy is it for you to get whatever it is, health care or food. And money is one access issue, but location and transportation is another access issue. Mm-hmm. And in our rural county, it's really hard to get into some place. How do you get from, Casadero to Safeway? How do you get from Monterey to, somewhere? So there's lots of places where the bus line, maybe it goes once in a while, but lots of people that have a hard time getting actually to stores that have produce in it. Sorry.
No, that's a good point. And I'm sure there are people in the room that have probably experienced or know somebody that's experienced struggling to put money in the gas tank. I mean, when the gas prices start to rise, people are making difficult choices between a bag of groceries and filling up their gas tank. So, if somebody can't afford the gas to get somewhere, I hear this story so often. Affluent communities, like we provide services in Sonoma Valley, for example, and a lot of folks there, they drive by people that are hungry every day. They walk by and they don't even necessarily know that the person that they're looking at is experiencing hunger. Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily see the face of hunger until you go to a distribution site, and then you realize that there's a lot of diversity in hunger in this county. If you go to the Sebastopol Vets here once a month when we have our senior food box distribution, our emergency food distribution, you'll see the face of the county represented in line. And
there's a long line that's outside of there. I've seen the line.
So in terms of accessibility, I see this with other food banks too. Like, for example, in Oakland, in more urban areas, like here we have the semi-rural, so folks might be really isolated in communities like, I don't know, I'm thinking of Point Reyes. There's the Annapolis, which is I think like a 4-hour round trip to get up there to the reservation and back down. There we have these issues of putting gas in the tank and getting to someplace, but there's also urban areas where you basically have a liquor store on every corner, but you don't have access to fresh produce. Well, a lot of food banks are being really proactive and very innovative. So for example, Alameda Food Bank, they partner with other pantries that will literally turn an empty liquor store into a food pantry, and they'll get the fresh produce from the food bank. And now there's a lot of innovation with bringing fresh produce to neighborhoods. So we do that in Santa Rosa. We have our own harvest pantry distribution. We go to communities like Roseland, and we'll be distributing broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and carrots, and fruits. Like in our season right now, we have plums. We'll get Driscoll strawberries. We'll get some really nice fresh produce. So of the 13 million pounds of food we're distributing every year, about 51% of that now is fresh fruits and vegetables, which that's a goal that our ED had when he came on board, I believe. God, how long has he been with the food bank? 6 years, maybe longer. One of his goals was to make sure that we could distribute fresh fruits and vegetables because, number one, the nutritional quality, number two, accessibility, and a lot of our parents are telling us, my child would not be able to eat nutritious food like this without the food bank because produce is too expensive. So,
right. I've heard the number of 1 in 6 children have some form of hunger in Sonoma County.
Yeah, that's one statistic. That's our statistic. There's, I think, boy, I don't even want to use the state statistic, but yeah, that's the statistic
In Sonoma County.
1 in 6 people.
So that means people in this room, that means, 4 people in your classrooms. If you have a class of 25 or something, it's to put that, number, make reality to you. I mean, it's all around us, people who are eating less than they need to, really.
Yeah, there was 3 stories. I've known citing Sonoma Valley. There are plenty of stories here in Sebastopol. West County, there are a lot of stories. Santa Rosa, a lot of stories. Sonoma Valley, I'm thinking of recently, 3 people that we interviewed at a site. One working father said that, he's just not making ends meet with his paycheck, and to be efficient, his family wasn't eating every other day. So this was before he started going to one of our distribution sites. So his idea of making ends meet was basically skipping meals. So that was one. A mother in Sonoma Valley at the same site, 2 teenage boys, said pretty much the same thing. Her paycheck was just not making ends meet. It is not making ends meet, and she said for the very first time in her life, she had the humbling experience of going and standing in line, which, for folks that have never had to do that before, I've seen that look on people's face, even here in Sebastopol. The person that has to go the first time, when they show up, they see the line and they don't know what to expect necessarily, and they just look really uncomfortable and out of place. Our volunteers are as welcoming as they possibly can be under the circumstances. But honestly, the stigma of being hungry and being food insecure, a lot of kids, kids will not tell their classmates that they're hungry that day, because I know we've all heard this expression oh, that's ghetto. We just make fun of people, when they don't, their clothing isn't, the best necessarily. They're poor for whatever, if they give off the aura of having poverty around them, they're really opened up to a lot of abuse, and that's something that we really like to strive to educate the community on too, so people don't feel uncomfortable going to get help when they need it. One of the most distressing things for me is when, for example, we have a lovely lady in Petaluma. She got laid off from her job and simultaneously found she was diagnosed with diabetes and was really ill and unable to find a new job. So she basically she spent all of her savings to avoid having to go seek assistance, because she had been somebody that used to donate to the food bank. So for her to have to turn around and go and stand in line, she's been, I think, in this position for about a year now. And she told me it's still really tough, for her to be standing in line thinking, wow, how did I get to this point? And people are so hard on themselves, what did I possibly do wrong in my life to be in this position? And there's so many people in her position that if we can just encourage people not to feel shame, not to humiliate them any further than people already feel bad enough as it is, not being able to feed themselves or their kids,
Right. We have a big issue in this country of, oh, you should be able to do it. Oh, if you're not making it, you've done something wrong, you've screwed up. If you'd only tried harder, you'd be making enough money to feed your family. And, especially now with our economy, but really even before the economy went bust, there's lots of different reasons why people's income goes down, why they aren't able to make enough to support their family in a healthy, good way. I mean, talk about some of the limited income, like the Social Security or unemployment, or
what the levels are of going out into the senior sites. I looked at income levels that could range from maybe as low as $500 a month to, I think our qualifying income for a single senior was maybe, if I remember correctly, about $1,100. So you have to be making a very low amount to even qualify, and the people that are in the gray area are also struggling. People that are, it's interesting, like we draw the line someplace, but that person who's just making a little bit more, they have other factors too in their life that may also be diminishing their income. So they're struggling just as much. That's why I'm really happy we have an emergency food assistance program where you don't have to have a qualifying income. Many of our produce sites are absolutely free. So, for example, you may have seen in Guerneville there's a place where people park when they're commuting to work, and we have a distribution site there just for produce, and people can just come and show up and get the produce, and there's no paperwork involved.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we don't have any qualifying income at Ceres. We're lucky that we don't ask people how much they make. We don't ask for that kind of thing. But you serve so many people that you have some kind of a paperwork people have to do.
For specific government programs,
Right.
we do.
Right.
And some of the programs are self-qualifying, which basically you just show up and you say, I need this food, and that's,
Right.
We would just as soon be like that for all of our programs, but we can't,
Right. That's right. Yeah. I just want to stop for a minute here and see any comments, any questions, any thoughts. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you
Go
go
ahead.
I was just wondering how, like, so do you have farms and people that donate food? Yeah, that's what it is. It's all donation.
Well, we're distributing 13 million pounds of food. So a lot of our produce is basically the stuff from the Central Valley that isn't quite perfect enough for grocery stores. So, the oranges might not be big enough or orange enough. So we're getting all of this, but that being said, a lot of it's really good quality as well. So I'm actually really impressed by the quality of the food that we get. But we also get backyard bounties, so we'll have people show up with chard, boxes of chard, or grapes, or zucchini, and that's the kind of stuff that just flies out really fast. Our partners come to us and they pick up food. So if we get donated produce. We don't actually have farms, and this is actually interesting, talking about accessibility too. We're moving into a new facility in January. It's a huge new facility. We'll have a lot more refrigeration. And one of the things that I've heard bounced around, this idea, I hope that it comes to pass, is serving as a distribution center for local farmers. Because we can actually, and it would be a win-win where we actually generate a little bit more income for the food bank, and then have a distribution hub where these major distributors, like a lot of farmers don't have the volume to access the main distribution hubs to get into the grocery stores, because the big distributors won't go around to little farms. But if we had a central source, central location, then and that might have been a little off topic.
Yeah, that's great.
I know that the Redwood Empire Food Bank was like working with like this yoga studio that I went to one time. So it was like we would like bring in cans instead of pay for the class or like donate money. How many times do you do that? Like how those events, and then how do you know how much participation you get? How successful are those?
Yeah, I love that yoga studio. That's she's talking about 3-dog yoga, and yeah, David's on our board.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. I think he's the only vegan, actually, so I'm not alone anymore. But, so yeah, David and his wife, and those events are really critical. They're essential to raising food and funds for the food bank.
Wow.
Yeah. So you brought in your cans and.
Yeah, I was bringing like 20 cans. Any money that I have left over or something. That's so cool. I didn't know it was really critical though. I thought it.
Well, you've seen the bins at the
Yeah.
stores. I know our post office, right, does the day of, giving cans.
Stamp Out Hunger.
Stamp Out Hunger.
Stamp Out Hunger is huge.
They're constantly collecting food in
Yeah.
different ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, those donation barrels that you see in the grocery stores and during the holiday season, those bring in about 200,000 pounds of food
Oh,
every year. But that being said, that's 15% of the food that we're distributing. We get a lot of donations from big companies.
Yeah.
And then we have to purchase food if a staple we lose, because a lot of agencies depend on us for basics like pasta sauce or pasta, vegetables, things like this. If we don't get them donated, then we have to purchase them.
And it's a nonprofit. So who's actually like out of pocket paying?
They raise money. They have big
just raise money.
fundraisers and, yeah, people like
Same
us.
Same as we do.
Right, like us, every nonprofit, they're much bigger than us, much bigger, but they have to do all sorts of creative fundraising.
Wow.
Yeah, Melissa.
Is there any way of finding out what companies donate to you? Because it would be really fun to be able to patronize the companies that are generous. I mean, it would be an encouraging thing.
Yeah, boy, you're asking questions I can answer. This is great. Amy's Kitchen is an awesome donor. And when I went out to different agency sites, just to monitor them, their kitchens, Amy's burritos were like hands down like one of the most popular food items for a lot of our partners.
I see that.
I love Amy's, and
They're very generous.
very generous. La Tortilla Factory, Cousteau Bakery, boy, so many. We have a lot of local companies that donate, and then we have a lot of bigger corporate donors as well.
And I'd love to know who they are.
Yeah, on our website, if you
Oh, yeah,
actually
on the
go
website.
to, if you go to our website, who is helping?
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Janet.
As my husband heals from his third bout of cancer, he used to eat a lot of conventional fruit, grapes, apples, peaches, whatever. Now, well, apparently, if it's not organic, he's not eating it. And because of that, and as you get all that food donated from the valley, is it, I'm guessing most of it's conventional pesticides and.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it's conventional. The majority is conventional. We're happy just to be able to offer fresh fruits and vegetables.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Starvation is, or, hunger is.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, we get a lot of donations of food that's basically just going to be calories to give people enough energy so they can get up and do what they need to do that day to maybe find a job, or not the best, necessarily the best, healthiest calories. Our goal is always to offer more, and that's one in our work plan for the next year. One of our goals, our top 9 goals, is to offer more nutritious food. So that's always really high up on our
So great.
agenda. And it's a really good point. One of our programs, and this is a little off topic, but diabetes is a huge issue. I mean, not just in Sonoma County, but nationally. And the Redwood Empire Food Bank is one of 3 food banks across the nation that received a grant to expand on our diabetes wellness project. So we're actually able to offer a 23-pound box that's specifically designed to give to people with diabetes. And it's being evaluated. It's part of a study to determine the outcome, like whether or not we're actually making a difference for diabetes and type 2 health management. So if we can make inroads here, then I'm really hopeful that we can actually, address that topic that you're talking about.
So one more question, then we need to wrap it up.
I'm just wondering about trending. Are you able to track what's happening with hunger, and what do you see even 5 years out, and how do you plan for that?
Strategic planning is so important. That's a good question for our board. It's a conversation that we have a new development director, and we've started this conversation, trending. How do you foresee? How do you predict the future? Do we do it? I would say yes. The specifics of it, that's probably the first question I feel kind of stumped about, but I'll go back and I'll ask.
Well, percentage-wise, has the number of hungry or food insecure is the term you use, people in Sonoma County increased? Or does it increase, or is it pretty much, whatever, 1 in 6 is? It's been 1 in 6 kids for a long time.
Yeah, we see incremental growth. Whenever the economy takes a hit, the numbers are going to increase. Anything can impact, and maybe I'm not going to say it's easy to predict, but it's fairly you can see, for example, gasoline. Obviously that's going to increase. That's going to impact food production. There's other things going on in our economy. Our major food donors, the major companies, are getting a lot more efficient at where their food is going. There's a lot of more discount stores, for example, grocery outlets and things of this nature, dollars. The food is going into different channels now than it used to, so we're seeing a big decline in our major food, the volume from like the canned goods and the dry goods. So that's something that we see in the future that we need to address, is how to supplement that decline. You know, are we going to have to purchase more food? How are we going to be creative? Addressing things like the health issues. You know, how we see, maybe it's because more people are being diagnosed than ever before, but these issues of people having cancer and diabetes, and how are we going to address the needs of our clients better? So that's another thing to look out, you know, 5 years down the road.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming here and representing this other piece of the food issues in our county. Yeah, it's really helpful to just get a snapshot of what the work that the food bank does and what the issues are in our county.
Yeah, I wish we had more time to go around the circle. I'd like to hear
Yeah.
more about, everybody here looks so interesting and probably has something to share.
Yeah.
Take a few more minutes, Margaret.
You can?
We're
Okay.
in good shape in the kitchen.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
I'd like to keep the conversation going a little
Well,
more.
Hear from people? Anybody?
Sarah, you start.
Does it surprise you that there's 1 in 6 kids that are hungry? In this
Yeah,
town?
it does.
It surprised me.
Living here, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I see kids at school just throwing their food away, and I go, "What the heck are you doing?" And I go, "If there's 1 in 6 people at school that are hungry, there's got to be somebody digging in that trash, getting that back out." That seems really weird. How some people have so much money they just throw it away, and then somebody else doesn't even have enough. They're skipping meals. I had no idea. It's really surprising.
Yeah,
on that
Gabe.
same note of like wastefulness, I think so many people are just oblivious to how much they waste and how much that doesn't need to happen. I mean, I was just recently working at the Bohemian Grove, and that was an experience unto itself.
That's a whole.
But they waste so much food, and I'm not really going to talk about it. But but it's, I mean, it's just
The
I
man
think
with
the
the black
issue,
van
the
are
issue
gonna
of
come after
wastefulness.
Yeah.
Not many people know.
Yes,
I mean,
right.
really, like, can see it.
Right.
It's not just that place either. A lot of
Oh, no, not
a lot
at
of
all.
food service facilities are like that because there's not like the best channels for already cooked fresh food to
Already cooked fresh food, but look at us. I mean, we go to Whole Foods every day and pick up their cold organic produce that would normally just be thrown in the compost.
Mhm.
So Gabe's point is well taken, that there's a lot of food that's thrown out and there's a lot of need.
Well, we have one of our schools in Santa Rosa, and I thank you for taking the extra few minutes. One of the sites where we have the produce distribution, they had a class field trip, and we bought their chocolate. This kid came out, he was selling chocolate bars, and the food bank bought a box to support their class trip. They told us that there were a lot of kids in that class trip that had never been to San Francisco, and these are kids that are in Sonoma County. So that's just a reality check that,
Yeah.
you know, we have kids that aren't even, their families can't afford to take them out of town, you know.
an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, that was interesting. I know that
Just go through the kids' food. Cody, do you have something?
Well, I was wondering, how long has the food bank been around, like,
25 years, and we were started by senior gleaners 25 years ago in the 80s. Basically folks that were going out into the field, like something like maybe Petaluma Bounty's doing now too, and other nonprofits, just basically getting the surplus before it goes to waste. So that's how the food bank started. By people that were there, they saw the waste, and they knew they could recycle it for people that were hungry.
Yeah. Hannah, did you have something?
Oh, well, I was just making a couple comments like about wasteful food. Like I used to work at a restaurant, and I would be really tempted to just eat off people's plates afterwards because they would just throw away half their meal. And also, I'm really glad to hear about this because I didn't know that there was such a big resource for food because I never went hungry when I was younger, but my parents did struggle to put food on the table, and I had friends in similar situations, and I thought I knew that even we were better off. So, and now my dad just got laid off, and my stepmom works a job, and that's doesn't get paid very much, and I feel like I don't ask them for food anymore. I just cook it myself, and it's something I let them know about now, because I worry about their health and all the food that they.
And I'm sorry, it's a really tough time to be laid off.
Angela?
In Illinois, we have a program now that we're doing a backpack program for breakfast for kids. Do you have anything like that yet?
Well, we have our summer meals program, summer lunch program going on right now. Last summer, we distributed, in a 3-month period, 102,000 meals. Specifically designed for the 30,000 kids that qualify for their free or reduced cost school lunch program during the academic year. So this summer we've already we exceeded the number of meals, up into June that we did, the same time last year. So we're looking at probably having more than 102,000 meals this year. We also have a backpack program for, I think about 9 schools if I remember correctly, and that's where we take. It literally was a backpack, but now it's a bag of groceries, because those kids, you figure if they have to get their free meal to eat during the school day, what are they eating on the weekends? So we'll take food that's distributed on a Friday. I think it's like a 15 to 20 pound bag of usually fresh produce. Wow. And then, Barbara's Bakery, fig bars, I've seen those in those bags also. Nice. It's another local company.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't know Barbara's was here too.
They were local.
I don't know.
They were local.
Mm-hmm.
We use Barbara's. We have that out.
Well, it's all over the country, but
Oh, okay.
but maybe it's packaged in factories.
Good questions.
Yeah.
Where does the
Adriana?
distribution do this?
Hold on, Adriana's got.
I was just gonna say, I would encourage anyone to go volunteer for the food bank or for homeless shelter, because I took a trip when I was up at school in Washington. I go to a Jesuit school, and they encourage people to take trips, kind of missions. And we did something in Old Town Portland, and Portland's a really great city to be homeless in because there's a lot of things in place for you. But the stories of homelessness and food insecurity are so varied and so incredible that for people that become insecure, really surprising. There's so many ways to become homeless and so many ways to just lose things. Maybe someone was driving a Camaro months before, and then all of a sudden totally flat. And another guy had just a really long on the street kind of life and was still struggling, but his daughter was at a great East Coast school, trying to forge ahead. And there's the stories I think are really valuable. But give you some perspective.
What are the stores in Sebastopol that have bins to collect food for the food bank?
Whole Foods is always a partner. Whole Foods is great. I'm trying to think of CVS Pharmacy. A lot of the local schools, during the winter food and funds drive season, local schools are great. Typically Safeways do. Year-round, we don't have a lot of stores. Whole Foods, I think, for the first time ever, is now doing posting barrels year-round.
Same question, but in your Point Reyes area?
Point Reyes is really far. It's on the fringe of our service area. What we have started to do up there, which I'm really excited about, is our diabetes wellness project. It goes up to Point Arena, and I think we're taking some extra produce, so we might be able to expand on that service. We don't actually have a donation location up there for food drives.
Can you talk a little bit about food deserts? That term is more about the urban areas, but.
Well, I think we could talk about rural areas too, like we're talking about Annapolis, which is it could be a 4-hour round trip to get up there, or Point Arena. A lot of people, the Russian River area, people live in the backwoods, and I wouldn't call it a desert per se, but in terms of accessing services, it can be extremely challenging. And then neighborhoods like Southwest Santa Rosa, where you have more like a convenience store in the neighborhood versus a grocery store. There can be a lot of reasons for that. I mean, maybe, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with marketing, like how much a corporation figures they're going to make in terms of profit in a certain neighborhood, and they're calculating, all kinds of variables probably into that equation. But if you see a low-income neighborhood, they don't necessarily have a vested interest if they don't think they're going to get a profit or a certain profit margin. I think
So the big supermarkets will often leave the lower income areas because it's not financially worth it for them to stay there. And that then creates a food desert where the convenience stores take over, and people then, if you're walking, if you're on the bus line, then where do you go to get your groceries? Well, you go to the convenience store, which they didn't have any food in it, but that's your option. That's the urban piece of it, and certainly, yeah, we have our rural reflection of that too.
About access.
Huh?
I said it's all about access.
Well, I don't want to be a downer. I mean, there's got to be a positive spin on this.
Well, we have one right here. We have the food bank. We have Ceres right here.
Ceres
helping
is-
them bring
I love
food.
Ceres.
Yeah.
And there's, did you have a question?
Just a quick question, can people volunteer for the food bank?
Oh, God, absolutely. Well, you're going to have the pleasure of Jim Rossler here on Wednesday, and his...
These guys won't be here.
They won't. Oh, you weren't going to miss him. He's like fully interactive and dynamic.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, we couldn't operate without our 5,000 volunteers. We have volunteers every year. Yeah, and we have schools and companies, and people pack the boxes. So we'll have a company. I'm trying to think of a local company that I can give a call out to.
Medtronic, probably.
Oh yeah, Medtronic, Exchange Bank.
Right.
God, boy, PG&E was just there.
They'll take a morning or something and come over and pack.
Yeah, I mean, who's really a Roseland University Prep. Talk about a community-oriented school. Those kids come in, I think, once a month, and they'll pack 240 boxes, 30-pound boxes for seniors. They'll bag produce, like 800 pounds of produce, and they'll clean in like several hours. So there's lots of ways you can make a difference. If you're bilingual, you can make phone calls. For our seniors, we do reminder calls because seniors can be really absent-minded, and it's not as if they don't need the food, but literally, like, you can call them a day before going up to a site to distribute, and they will forget, and you'll be there in the community room. Oh, where's Lois? Lois isn't here, and you'll call her, and she's like, oh my God, I forgot, and then she'll come out, and we always need volunteers.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great work you're doing.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's great to be in partnership with the food bank.